Hi guys, my name is Jalen and today I'm going to be doing my April wrap up. I keep thinking it's March. So I read, wait for it, 20 books this month. Well, 20 by the time this video goes up because I'm almost done with one right now. And so it was a really good month for me. I think about it, 30 days in a month and I read 20. That is like a book a day almost. I was so proud of myself. Because the first month, February I read 6, March I read 5, and so this time with me reading 20, that will definitely help me in my reading challenge, which is to read 100 books this year. So I was so proud of myself. You have no idea. Okay, so I'm just going to start telling you guys the books that I read because I don't want this video to be too long, and I'll tell you guys a little bit about them. So the first book that I read was Reboot, and I read this on April 1st. Now, I read really fast. I'm a really fast reader. I will sit down and I will read it in that one sitting. I read it in one specific time, and then it's over and done with, and then I really like it like that. Some people like to slow down and read it. My family doesn't like reading it fast. Slow readers. But I read this one on the 1st, and Reboot is about a society where if you die, you have a really good chance of coming back to life or rebooting. And the main character's name is Ren, and she was dead for 178 minutes. And when you reboot, you come back and you're stronger and faster, and you don't have as many emotions the longer you're dead. And so she was dead for 178 minutes, and that is the longest time that anyone's ever been dead. And since she is such a good reboot, she trains newbie reboots that come in. And so when a new group comes in, there is number 22, and that is the youngest, not youngest, that is the lowest number that there has ever been. And his name's Callum, and it's just their adventures together. And the second one of this book comes out soon, and so that will be in my April, just kidding, May. I'm having a hard time here. That will be my May releases and TBR because there are so many coming out that I'm going to do a video on that. So it will be up on Thursday, the 1st. I really did enjoy this book. I thought it was very good. The second book I read was Let the Storm Break by Shannon Messenger. And this book is the second book in the Let the Sky Fall series. And so in this book, I always feel like when I'm telling someone about a book, you have to have read the first one to tell you about the second one. And so in these books, they are wind spirits or sylphs, however you say that. And in this book, you see their adventures with Raider and stuff. And then in this book, there is more of that, and I don't know, that's basically what it's about. It's just, but if you have read this book, I would definitely recommend picking up this book. It left on a really bad cliffy, and I'm so excited for the next one to come out. The next book I read was, I read 4 books on my Kindle, and those were the next 4 books that I read. And I read these on the 8th and the 9th. So I started the Significant series by Shelley Crane on the 8th. I read the first one at midnight because I could not fall asleep, and so I read it from midnight to 1, and I could not put it down. And so the next day at school, I finished the first one, bought the second one and finished that, and read half of the third one by the time that day was even over. And then I read half of the third one and the fourth one the next day on the 9th. I'm really good with remembering the days that I actually read these books, which I think is kind of weird. But then I realized I had read them so fast that I hadn't soaked up all the details yet, and so I reread them. So that also means that so that's 8 books instead of 4, and I don't know if you would count that as reading a new book, but I would saying how many books I read because I reread them. And that's saying that if I read Reboot at the beginning of the month and I read Reboot at the end of the month, I couldn't count it. So I don't know how I would phrase that. I say that I did read them both twice because I read them all the way through again, and that is just as many pages as reading another book. And so I read Significance, Accordance, Defiance, and Independence, and I thought they were all so good. I really liked them. They were a different kind of contemporary. I was expecting like a normal contemporary, you know, like Anne and the French Kiss and My Life Next Door and stuff, but it was so different, and I really enjoyed it. So it is about this girl, and her name is Maggie, and she is 17 years old, and she's just graduated, and she's had such a bad year. Her mom left her and her dad. Her brother is still interning up at New York, and so he's not around, and her boyfriend dumped her, and she's just been really down in the dumps, not doing good at school and stuff, and her dad is really depressed and not been with her, and so everything's just going really bad. And then she meets this guy named Caleb, and that sounds really cliche, like you meet a guy and everything gets better, but everything changes because when they touch, they imprint on each other, and they see visions of their future and what it's going to be like, and they are soulmates. And this story is about like their kind, where they imprint on people, and you need their touch to survive, or you go through these withdrawals and stuff. And I really liked this book. I thought it was very interesting and different, and I'll probably do a book talk, like overview on the whole series about it soon, so be expecting that. And so I very much liked those books. I thought they were wonderful, and I read them twice, and there's 4 of them, so I read 8 books just in that series, and there's technically not even 8, and I have yet to pick up the novella, but I really want to, so I'm just waiting to pick that up, but I have no money. So if you guys have seen my 5th book haul and spring break video that I did, I just barely put that video up. I'll have that link below in the description box. I talked about the books that I bought, and I also talked about a little bit about my spring break, and I read a lot on spring break. So we got out on a Wednesday, and Thursday the 17th, I am almost positive, I read Two-Way Street by Lauren Barnhold. I would give this book like a 2 out of 5 stars. I really didn't enjoy it that much, but I was watching baseball, and I wouldn't recommend it to very many people to read, like at all. But I don't know, I didn't have another book to read. The next book that I read after that one, that's about that book right there that I just did, that was about a girl who goes on a road trip with her ex-boyfriend, and they're like really mean to each other. So yes. The next book that I read was Unremembered by Jessica Brody, and I got this book on Book Outlet. It's in one of my book hauls, and I really like how, I don't know, it just seems like something that I would really like. So it is about a girl where she gets in a plane crash over this Pacific Ocean. I'm having a really hard time talking today. And she loses her memory. She loses everything. She doesn't remember anything about anything. She is just gone. And so she is the only survivor, and she's unharmed, and nothing's happened to her. Her body's fine, like everything is fine, but she's the only survivor on this really bad plane crash. And so she is struggling really hard to piece together her past and like what has happened. And so she goes and lives with this family, and she's just trying to piece it all together. And then this guy comes, and he says that he knows who she is, and he says that they were in love and all this stuff. And I really like this book. I would give it probably, well, I thought it was good. I would probably give it a 3.5 stars now that I look back on it. I thought it was creative, and I really liked the writing. I thought it was unusual how like she forgot everything and they would have to explain it to her again. And I really liked the powers that she had. Like, you'll understand if you've read it, but I really liked that. But then I won't explain this right now, but I did pick up a second book, which I will talk about. Well, I read Two-Way Street on the 17th, this book on the 18th, and on the 19th I read Half Bad by Sally Green. Now, I talked about a lot of these books in my book haul because I had gotten a lot over spring break. But I read this book and it was very, very good. I loved the writing and I thought it was very well put together. And in like the first like this many pages, like you've already been through like 17 years. And like it's very fast paced. And then it kind of slows down once he's 17. Or almost 17, but it was something different that I would not normally read, and I very, very much liked it. I read this book on the 18th, and I would give it a 4 out of 5 stars, maybe a little bit more, and I didn't even notice that there was a face on it till like just barely. See, eye, the nose, the mouth, the chin, just noticed that, and I love the cover, Half Bad. I think it's very cool how they do them like that. I really like that. So the next book that I read was Shatter Me by Tahara Mafi, and I read this on the Sunday. It was Easter Sunday. I went to Barnes & Noble Saturday night, and I picked this book up along with the second one to this series, the Unremembered series, and I really, really, really enjoyed this book. I would give it a high 4. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought some of the things that she said were just amazing, and some of the ways like that she wrote were just phenomenal. I was reading it and I was on like this page, like this one where it's all crossed out, you know? My brother goes, "Why did you cross it out?" I go, "Oh, that's not me. It's just like that." And he's like, "Why?" I'm like, "I don't know. That's just how the author writes." But it was really cute. But I really liked this. The most frustrating thing for me, I think, was Juliet. So this book is about a girl named Juliet, and she has a lethal touch. That is what it says right here. My touch is lethal, my touch is power, and it's crossed out. And on the back it says, "I have a curse, / I have a gift. I am a monster, / I am more than human. My touch is lethal, / my touch is power. I am their weapon, / I will fight back." So this book was different and I really liked it. So this girl has been locked up in an insane asylum for 264 days, and she, like, the government comes and they're trying to use her as their weapon, and I really love this book, and I love, love, love the covers. I mean, I think they're just amazing. The next book that I read was Unravel Me, and the next day, on Monday, I went to Barnes & Noble, and I picked this book up. I really wanted it in a hardback, but they only had a paperback, and I was desperate, so I bought it anyway. And I very much enjoyed it. I would give this book also a high 4, maybe a little bit higher than than Shatter Me. And so this book is a continuation of Juliet's adventure. I almost said Julia, but then I was like, it's. And they are at Omega Point, and it is just her powers expanding and all the things that they have to go through trying to destroy the reestablishment. And so I very, very much enjoyed this book. I thought it was very well written out, and I love some of the things that she said in it. Like, even the way it starts is really good. So it starts out really poetic and stuff, and I really like this book. I thought it was very, very well written, and I would definitely read it again. I thought it was really wonderful. Okay, the next book that I read was Unite Me, which is the novellas for Destroy Me and Fracture Me. Now, this is a really small book, but I decided to count it because it was like almost 200 pages. It was 3 pages off from being 200, and 200 counts as a book, and so I decided to count it. And so there are 2 novellas, Destroy Me and Fracture Me, and Destroy Me is a novella in Warner's point of view, and kind of see more of his point of view and understand where he's coming from, which I really like seeing that, because sometimes I think you can't understand why people do things unless you understand their background and stuff. And I really like this book. I read it on Tuesday at school, and I finished it like at TA. So I didn't have a book to read all day long. But there's also the second novella in the back, and that is from David's point of view, and you get to see a little bit more into David. And I really enjoyed this, and I was really glad that I picked this series up. Okay, so the next book that I read was Ignite Me by Tahara Mafi, and that is the third book in this trilogy. And I really love this book. I would definitely give it a 5 out of 5 stars. Some of the things that she said were just amazing. And I really enjoyed it. I read this right after I picked this up. I bought it and I read it that night, and it was just so good. And it's about them trying to take down the reestablishment and Juliet finally pulling her crap together, and I really enjoyed it. The next book that I read, so I was very proud of myself for reading, because I didn't plan to read this book, like, even though it is the book Explosion Book of the Month. I just saw it at the library and I picked it up. So that would be Rubbleveld by Rachel Hawkins, and I really love this cover. I think it's just awesome. I know you guys have seen it all over BookTube and stuff, but I really like it. And I read this book on Sunday, on the 27th, and I read it at my grandma's house, and I just really enjoyed it. And so it is about this girl who, she's kind of like, she's the popular girl, she's like the diva, she's the head cheerleader, all that stuff. And she gets these powers to protect her arch nemesis, who is like really special and important. And it was very creative, and like it wasn't what you expected, and because I certainly didn't expect that to be what it was about. And I really like this book. I thought it was a really good read. I would definitely give it a high 4. I say high because I try not to do like 4.5, but like I would give it a 4.5 for sure. But I really like this. And the next book that I just read last night and this morning was The Selection, and I don't have it with me right now because everything is like lent out because the next book is coming out soon. And so I read that book, and it is my all-time favorite book. Seriously, when people ask me what would I recommend them to read, I tell them The Selection. The Selection I got my mom to read it, I got my grandma to read it, I got all of my aunts to read it, I got my cousin who doesn't read to read it, I got my best friend Callie, she was in my first sentence challenge. I got her reading off of that book just a couple weeks ago, and it is just a phenomenal book. I would recommend it to anyone. I think it's just amazing. And, well, I would recommend it to all girls. Some boys, maybe not, but I think it's just amazing. And so it is about this girl named America, which is really confusing because when I was reading like the blurb on the back, because I read this book a really long time ago, like when it first came out. I'm talking really fast. I was like an American singer, like what? Okay, but it's about this girl who goes to the palace and tries to win the love of Prince Maxon, and it's just such a fantastic read, and I just love it so much. And so I would definitely tell you guys, everyone, to read it. Read it now, because the third book's coming out, and you need to be prepared. And the final book that I read was The Elite, and technically I'm not even done yet. See that? So I'm like less than 100 pages, but by the time this video goes up, I will be done. So yes, and this book is a continuation, and it is where there are only 6 girls left, and America has to decide if she really does love Prince Maxon or if she just wants to go home. And I love this book, but I hate this book so much. It is so irritating, and there's like parts where you're like, yeah, and then you're like, ugh. Like, this book sometimes makes me physically ill reading it. If you love this book, you know what I'm talking about. Ugh. But I also really love this book. I think that it is a phenomenal second one because most second books really suck. And while I don't think it is my favorite, it is still a part of my favorite series, and I still love it. So, read this book. That is all the books I read. So I told you guys we were going to talk about this. I read this much of this book, but I can't read anymore. I can't. I've tried. There are not very many books I do not like. I can't read it. I also read a little bit of this one. And I flipped through some more books, but those were the books that I read. I know, it's kind of crazy. I read so many. I was so proud of myself, though, because I have to read 8 books a month for 12 months to read 100 books in a year, and I was slacking. I didn't even read in January at all, and so reading all these books this month has caught me up for January, caught me up for February and March and April, so I'm all caught up now, and I can just read 8 books a month normally, which might not happen, but. So, thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe. I'll see you later. Bye.